This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Of April 2026. A very significant day, one would say, because today Kenyans woke up to new fuel prices and what that means to them. But having a discussion around the same on fuel prices and impact on key economic drivers. Edwin Mukabana is the chairperson, Federation of Public Transport Sector. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
We're here to talk about issues around that sector. We expect Justin Nyaga as well to join him, who is the chairperson, Organization of Online Drivers and Secretary General of E-Haile's Transport Umbrella Association as well. We are waiting for him as well as we continue the conversation. Now, Edwins, every week we go to a different African country. Yeah, how we go there, don't worry. Now, I think it will be a little bit expensive because fuel prices have done that thing, yeah? So
Yes.
it will be it will be a little bit difficult for us as well.
Yeah.
But we managed to go to the country that is Djibouti. And it is a beautiful country. Just came off an election, elected the president for the sixth time. He won the election with over 97%.
Wow.
But the biggest resource that they do have is their port, which helps in feeding into other countries, especially Ethiopia, because it is a landlocked country, and that is what they use. It's also multicultural because they were colonized by the French, so they speak French as well. But majority of the country as well speaks Somalia because its history relates back to Somali-speaking country, as well as Ethiopians because of intermarriage, business, and all that. They also have a section of the country that speaks Ethiopian as well. So talk about different cultures coming together to form that beautiful country that is Djibouti. But let's go to the proverb. Words are shared and meat is shared.
Words are shared.
Words are shared and meat is shared. How would you interpret it?
Wow. I think I would say that this applies to any situation where you are having a conversation or a meeting or a meal. And when you are discussing, you are also sharing a meal. To me, that would mean that I can interpret it that you should always come together to discuss things. And as you discuss things, there'll be something for you all. That's how I would interpret it.
Yeah, well said. You know, it is an African thing. Ukikuja kwangu, unajua chai ni lazima. You know, kama ni nyama tuchome, tukipiga story. You know, you also can't just eat this meat without talking. That will be weird.
Yes.
That will be weird. Well said, well interpreted. But let's dive into the conversation.
Yes.
14th of April, 2026, EPRA did that thing.
Yeah, no more.
And Kenyans woke up to 40 shillings on diesel, 26 shillings on petrol. What that means, and knowing very well what a diesel means to the country in terms of powering industries, powering transport in the country, and that is 40 shillings that providers have to find a way of transferring that to Mwananchi. Let's talk about the transport sector. What are we looking at?
Transport sector, we are looking at what everybody is expecting to happen. That there's certainly going to be a rise in the price, be it price of goods or price of travel, and that means that it is going to affect the whole economy.
Yeah.
From the agricultural sector, you are going to find the goods and the meals that we are eating will have a price component. Everything that we buy is going to have a price component. And yes, every trip you make is going to have that price component. So we certainly are looking to adjusting. We're not increasing fares. Adjusting fares.
Adjusting up.
Adjusting fares upwards
Yeah.
to match the increase that we are having to shoulder.
You know, what Mwananchi is asking then, if you're adjusting prices up, you know, because it has been adjusted up by 40 shillings, right?
Yeah.
So are we also looking at adjusting up with 40 shillings plus your margins or what? Because
no.
Because one would want to ask, you know.
We're going to do it on percentage basis.
Okay.
that the price increase has gone up by 20%, 25% about. And that means that we are also likely to go up between 25% to 30%.
Okay.
The margin of 5% is because we have not adjusted fares for a very long time. And even if we do, the market brings it down. The forces in the market always brings it down because, fares in Kenya are not controlled. So whatever you set, as time goes on, as competition increases, the prices settle at a particular place. And more often, the prices come down. I'll give you an example. For example, the cost to KNH.
Yes.
I've been in the industry for some time. At Kenya Bus, we used to charge 20 shillings to KNH. From Kencom.
Kencom, yeah.
Right now, you'll still go to KNH at 20 shillings.
Do you though?
During off-peak time.
Off-peak, yeah. But most of the time, it's 50 shillings.
It's 50 shillings.
Yeah.
Would that be a good price? For example, Kawangware City, the price should be about 80, but you could easily, at 5 o'clock in the morning, you could easily go by 20 shillings.
No, 30 shillings, yeah.
Or 30 shillings. So you find that the market corrections sometimes do not consider the actual cost of production. And that is where the problem is in our pricing structure. So we are hoping that we're going to go up by 25% and indeed 30% with a 5% margin of price correction. Yeah.
So that means if, let's just break it down even further for wananchi to understand. Let's remove percentages, yeah? Let's use Kawangware, right?
Yes.
So Kawangware during peak time, because peak time is when most Kenyans use transport.
Yes.
Right? So it is 80 shillings.
Yes.
So if it's 80 shillings, so you're talking about 25% of 80 shillings, that would be
20 shillings.
20 shillings. So that means standard fare for wananchi during peak time will definitely get to 100 shillings.
Correct.
100
Very
shillings.
correct, yes.
Right?
Yes.
And those who pay 30 shillings in the morning because it is off peak, they now expect to pay either the same or go up to 50.
Yes.
Up to 50.
That is what is likely to happen.
So in the grand scheme of things, that means Mwananchi today should expect to dig deeper, but I want to look at it from transporters' perspective, right? So in terms of you spending in a day, assuming it's 10,000 bob, let's use 10,000 bob on a day before the prices. How much are we seeing you getting to spend after the review?
In terms of the transporter?
Yes.
We are going to spend, because fuel constitutes about 40%, 40 to 45% of the cost of transportation, of cost of operating a PSV vehicle. So we are likely to see the same amount increase, the same percentage increase on our costs of operation. Yes. And that cost of operation is what we are passing over to. So certainly you will see that we are going out of pocket of about, if it is 10,000, of about 4,000 shillings. And these 4,000 shillings we have to recoup from
us.
You. Do you use a bus? No, I don't think you do.
I do.
Yes.
I do.
So you're certainly going to pay for this.
Yeah, Jesse.
Not most, but some PSVs actually are operated on loans. Whenever there's a fuel price increment, is there an issue of sustainability of these loans when it comes to the PSV operators? Do you usually note a challenge amongst the members of the public transport sector when it comes to paying their loans?
Yeah, paying the loans is a big issue. Maybe let me go back at how public transport is supposed to be financed. Public transport is a public good and is supposed to be financed by some form of subsidy. Just like the Agricultural Finance Corporation, when it gives loans to farmers, it gives to farmers at 4%. But this country has left a public good to take loans from commercial banks at 18% to 20%. That means that already you are starting off disadvantaged loan-wise because the government is not supporting you to carry its own citizens. So you are then subsidizing government. And I'll match this with, let's look at the money that is put on rail development, which doesn't make money. But public transport is here giving you a very, very good and efficient service, and you are not giving it any support. So when it comes to loans, we are finding it very, very, very difficult because these loans are ruthless, and when it is taken, you have to pay with very high interest rates. The duration within which you have to pay is, if you are lucky, you'll get 48 months, which is 4 years. In most cases, they might push you to 36 months, which becomes very, very difficult for you to pay. Now you have a price increase that is coming in. You did not budget. You are dealing with a population that is very price sensitive. And sometimes in transport, there's something we call ability to pay. You may increase fares, but if the people you are giving that price do not have the ability to pay, then they will resort to other means. They'll resort to go to walk, for example, to ride, to buy bicycles and ride. And certainly they'll look for other means to go to work. The other ones will just suppress their trips. Some will decide to work from home. Some will decide to forego. You were supposed to go to look for work. That day you say, I'm not going to look for work. And that way you suppress the economy because of such factors.
So there are Kenyans who stop using public transport when prices go up.
Yes, they'll resort to walking. And I can assure you, once we increase the fares and you go to Kangemi, see the people walking, or go to Kibera and see the people, there will be very many people now walking.
Let's welcome in Justin Nyaga, who's the chairperson of Organization of Online Drivers and the Secretary General of Hales Transport Umbrella Association. Justin, the other day I was having a discussion with the driver of one of the taxi hailing apps, and one of the issues that he was raising was, unajua bana, hata hii pesa ukinipea saa hizi, serikali imeingia taxes inatunyonga, inatuua proper, you know? And now we are also getting to a point where fuel prices have gone up. That means it will be expensive for taxi hailing apps to put their vehicles on the road, to offer that service. But have we had these conversations with the owners of these apps that fuel prices have gone up? In terms of the base fare, or in terms of adjustments that need to happen, that also needs to happen. And what does that mean to JC, who used one in the morning?
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Again, my name is Justin Nyaga. I come from an organization called Organization of Online Drivers, Kenya. And also I am the Secretary General of E-Hailers Transport Umbrella Association that deals with the digital cab drivers only. So we capitalize on digital part of transportation. The drivers that are using the applications to connect to the riders. And it has been for quite a number of years challenges with the application companies. Because on our case, somehow it is different from the other transportation sector like matatus, where now the SACCO owners can decide to change the prices at any given time. But on our case, somebody else seated in a lab with a laptop, and we will decide
in San Francisco.
In San Francisco and other countries, we will decide the amount of money that you are going to take from the passenger. To my understanding, this person doesn't know the cost of the car. Even if they know, they ignore. They doesn't know the operational costs that we incur when you operate that car on daily basis or per kilometer. They doesn't know. Then they are given responsibility to determine the price. That's where the whole corruption comes in. So our cry has been over the years how we can participate in decision making for those pricing. And recently is when now the government is trying to bring about what they are calling the price policy. They have introduced that. The tender is out. We are expecting, but we don't know whether it is the same PR that they have been using over the years to tell us to keep us moving, to keep us moving, to keep drivers having hope, which will never happen. So we are like, we want to see it so that we can believe. For that one is a tick. But we have been in conversations and dialogue in boardrooms, in round tables, discussing about the pricing, because from the time Uber came into Kenya, they were per kilometer, they were 70 shillings per kilometer. Today, as we speak, they are charging 23 shillings per kilometer. Now we wonder, the fuel is going up. There is what we call the high cost of living, and still the prices are going down.
Government taxes, let me add that for you.
Now the government taxes also comes in, and last year the government introduced now the VAT on the commission that we pay to the application companies. It was also a big hit to the driver community, and we condemn that thing. But now we don't have any say. The application will sit down with the government, and the government will decide. Then we are pressed to the red corner.
Justin.
Jessica.
Yes.
You've said 23 shillings per kilometer. Let's get a breakdown of what exactly goes to the driver, what goes to the government, what goes to the up-hailing platform. If I pay 500 shillings for a cab, how much goes to the driver?
When you pay 500 shillings, you deduct 18 shillings commission fee to the application company.
So
now
they take
what
18.
they do with the 18 shillings, it is upon them to pay their own company taxes and all that, to their staff and all that. 18% you deduct. Then you deduct 3% for taxes, making it a total of 21%.
Okay.
So you can do the mathematics and see from maybe 1,000 shillings, the 18% is 180 plus 30 bob, that is 210. 210 deduction. Then goes to the government or to the hub company. Then now remaining 79% goes to the driver. Then you deduct the fuel, the operational cost of the car, the car wash, the data, the phone, the hair time, and all that.
So, with all this in mind, because fuel, as we speak right now, anyone who's using a taxi hailing app at the moment as we speak, they are using fuel that was purchased at 206, right? 206 per litre.
Yeah.
Yet adjustments in terms of the taxi hailing app has not happened yet.
Yeah, it has not happened.
So are we staring at a situation where, because it has happened before, you get into an app and there's a list, these are the charges that you, the new price adjustments. Are we looking at now drivers having a conversations one-on-one because, hey, fuel imeenda juu, these guys have not changed, itabidi uniongeze.
Imelipisha ngapi?
Unajua, Are we seeing those discussions happening now, and are we likely also to experience taxi hailing drivers maandamano? Are we seeing that happen in the near future?
Okay, I will start with the umeona ngapi. Imeonyesha ngapi. It has been a language from last year but one, when I introduced that thing of price list.
Oh,
it's like
you
are removing. Yes, I was the first one, because according to the company policy, the application company's policy, you are not supposed to add something on top of the price that is already set. But as a leader, I said we cannot continue like this. We have been in negotiations with the app company. They make better the prices. They are not. The government is there saying we are waiting for a comprehensive document, scientifically done, the government is delaying us, it is not coming out. So what can we do? We decide by ourselves. So I authorized some my people to just make a list, and I signed, and as a result, I was blocked from all the applications. They blocked me. They called me and they said, you signed this thing? It is against our laws. So they blocked my accounts. All the hubs were blocked. But we had a meeting with the government versus them, and some of them, like Bold and the rest, they are blocked. Only Huba remains until now. I'm still blocked. So I want to say this. We had a discussion today in the morning with the leadership, and we said we are going to reintroduce the price list model from today. If the application companies will not change the prices, we are going to do that.
So that means Mwananchi who's listening, or Mwananchi who's in an Uber right now, who is in a taxi right now listening to us, they should know that the price on your app will not matter.
Exactly. That is what we are saying today, that the price in the app will not matter. The app will be used for only to connect the driver and the passenger.
Has there ever been an instance where fuel prices go up and the app responds in kind? Wanasema fuel is a core component of your business, hence we will increase the pricing. Has that ever happened?
No, because they always compete going down.
Okay.
Down ones. If an application A charges 33 shillings per kilometer, application B will come with 32 shillings per kilometer, application C will come with 30, then the first application which was charging 33 will go to 29, and then they are going down and down and down.
So they're computing for the consumer.
Yes.
In matatus, it's so rare for the price of matatu to go down. Though he justified saying to KNH unalipa bado 20 shillings. It's so rare for a review downwards. Mafuta imeshuka, so fare ya matatu inashuka pia.
I think in the matatu industry it is similar to what he's saying. What is happening is that the regulator for this, both the apps and the transport, which is NTSA, does not have a formula of calculating how prices should be done. During the former TLB, there was an article that dealt with price control. Of course, this was removed around 1991 when they said the country economy has been liberalized. But you can't liberalize transport. There must be a control on those fares. What you see happening in Uber is exactly what's happening in Matatu. You will realize that despite the fact we're going as vehicle owners, we're going to say we want this price to be at this. Who will determine the price is the makanga on the stage. And the makanga on the stage will be competing with the other makanga who is shouting a lower price. So you are in a situation where you have set the price. These ones are fighting for passengers, these ones are fighting for passengers, and at the same, that's what I call market correction. The market correction is not based on any formula. It's just based on competition. And that way you find then every time you are operating on very, very low margins or on prices that are not correct. We can sit down and do the mathematics just like he's saying, and you'll find that unless you do some gymnastics, unakata kona hapa, overcharge hapa, similar to what he's saying, that they will force a particular thing. So in transport, you'll find the makangas, they charge you very little in the morning, then during the rain season, they are charging very high fares. And that is not the way. Prices must be predictable. Journeys must be predictable. So if you have a system where your transport system is unpredictable, then there's too much risk. And that is why you find even you can't contain accidents, you can't contain pollution, you can't contain other things like congestion, because you must predict the system in operating buses.
I want to bring in an idea, I don't know, on how this can be handled. Because you look at ferrying Kenyans to work is a service that generally should be taken by the government, right?
Correct.
If you hear me, if you follow me through it. Why? Because this citizen is leaving their home to go to work, to get that money, to pay taxes back to the government. Therefore, the government, in one way or the other, must meet Mwananchi at the point of need to make sure that even as I'm taking taxes from Aseto, I have assisted Aseto get to work easily and home easily in a way that is safe, that is predictable, that is affordable to them. Now, the biggest driver of these sector that you're talking about is fuel. Because for these vehicles to move, we need fuel, right? And with that, then, one would assume that there are conversations between matatu operators with the government on how we can help address cost of transport by addressing the cost of fuel. That means if the government looks at, I don't know how it would go about it, because the government needs taxes, granted, right? But you look at the taxes in the petroleum industry, in petrol and fuel, it is so high. Majority of what is collected is taxes. Should that be the approach that the government looks at? This is a service. We are helping Mwananchi get to work so that we can get the taxes. That without that conversation, then we will never find a solution to this problem.
That is a very, very good question, and that's why we are in discussion with government. We are happy that the government is coming up with what they are calling the integrated automated fare collection system. The integrated fare collection system will now try to relate to what you see in other countries and how the pricing in other countries are done, because it is like introducing an app equivalent to what they are doing for the public transport sector. And why the government needs to do that is that it's incumbent to the government to ensure that the cost of travel is reduced, because it is one of the highest components. In some studies have shown that in some households, they use up to 47% of their household income on transportation. Let's take somebody who stays in Kitengela. He has got to use a matatu, 50 shillings. He comes to the stage, he comes with 110 or 100 and something to the city, and is going to Westlands. And then in Westlands, he has to do a walk of some sort. So you find this person is paying a lot of money. But if we had a scheduled service, for example, that is coming and connecting all the way to Westlands, this would become much cheaper. So there are certain interventions that the government is supposed to put in. One is the automated fare collection system. The automated fare collection system enables you, for example, to know the aggregate number of the passengers in the metropolitan area. And once you know the aggregate number in the metropolitan, then you know the total money you are going to collect, and you can arrive at a particular average fare of travel. And then if you do scheduled services and people are traveling from one point to another, you can now contract an operator, Super Metro or Kenya Bus, and tell them, you are going to operate this route. We want you to have 20 buses on this route. They'll go at five frequency of 5 minutes.
5 minutes,
And that way, you only need to give us how many kilometers did you operate. And because we have the aggregate, then we pay you per kilometer of operation. How do you fund that port? The fares going to that port, you can now pick other models. For example, the people who are congesting are small cars. The parking fees, a bit of it goes to that. You can take a bit of fuel level, add into that pot. You can take green funds, can come. There is something with land value capture. Thika Road land property was not good.
Carbon credits.
Oh, no, you understand. Carbon credits. You put all this money into this pot and be able to provide a very cheap service to the commuters. That is how it is done. It is so easy. Everybody's doing it. Why can't we do it? That way, then, you cushion, answering your first question, you cushion the passenger so that he can go to school cheap, he can go to look for employment, he can sell his merchandise. Then you start propelling the economy to start functioning. And that way, you elevate the cost of living. The government really needs to come into this. It is so simple. And this proposal, as operators, we have given it to the government through Namata. We have had discussions. We have told them how it can be done.
But
like my colleague is saying, the government pulls its legs. Government doesn't think a passenger is important at all. They don't think so.
Let me engage Justin, yeah? Because I happen to come with a EV today, which is quite rare. So perhaps it begs the question, what percentage of electronic vehicles are in the taxi sector? Is there an upsurge? And we've seen the government trying to prioritize this electric vehicles as a long-term solution to the volatile fuel prices. Is there any barrier of transitioning, especially for a driver, from a normal car to an EV car? What barriers are there?
Okay, but the first question was the percentage.
Yes.
Approximately 10, not even 10, like 7% or 5%.
That's including do-these as well?
Yeah, including do-the, we can say it's 10%.
Okay. Guys, do this bike.
Bike.
In French. Okay.
That is a Greek word for bike.
Yes.
So including bikes, we can say we have like 10%. And we have multiple challenges in that, in the transition. Because first is that the government, when you import this car, it is very high in terms of purchasing compared to the high-seas cars. So like now you get an example like a car like a Neta V. A Neta V in China, you can get it with 1.7 or 1.8. And when it comes to Kenya, the purchase price is 4.3 to 4.5.
Zero mileage?
Zero mileage, yes. You can see the difference. So now, imagine with an Uber or an app company, and you have bought a car at 4.5 million. And you are taking a passenger with 130 shillings, 130 shillings or maybe 23 shillings per kilometer. For how long will you recover this money? That is the first challenge that we have in transition. If the government can maybe remove those taxes to help us get these cars at affordable price rates, then better. Then that gap can be done. Another thing is that the apps have not come up with a formula. Like now in the high C cars, we have the first category, the middle category, and the other category, the 7-seater category.
Yeah, high capacity.
Now, because the categories are measured by the CC capacity of the car. Now with the EVs, they don't have the capacities in terms of engine capacities of that. Now, the application companies are finding it difficult to bring about these categories and to understand which car should be placed in this category, which car should be placed in this category. So that's another challenge that we have. So you can see a person with a very big car, very smart car, and is getting a chap category, the economy category, the smallest category.
There's equally a shift from using normal fuel to LPG. I don't know if you've seen some of these vehicles that actually use LPG. Is this something you could recommend for your members? What exactly necessitates this? And perhaps with the fuel prices going up, is this a trend that is likely to continue?
Yeah, we can recommend, but as you can see, now the world is aiming at transforming to green, not to now. And if you now go to LPG, in a span of 5 years or 4 years, it will be gone. It will be useless. So, however you try to encourage people to go to to use LPG, it becomes somehow difficult. And again, once you put your car on LPG, there is that transition. The resale price goes down again. It fluctuates too. lowers the price immediately. So those challenges are there. So what we are doing, we might encourage people to go to EVs. The EVs are better because the world in the next 5 years, we will turn to green.
Edwins, I want to look at the transport sector policy, if that does exist for the country. Because I'll give you an example. One of the greatest marvels that exists in the world today in terms of managing transport is found in Manhattan train station in New York, because the system that has been put in place to ferry people, over 1 million people use that train station on a daily basis to go to work and back.
Yes.
But that is because it's a train station. But then let's get back to high capacity buses and a clear policy on what is supposed to ferry wananchi from point A to point B. I'll give you an example and help me out today so that we just get to understand as wananchi. I use Ngong Road. Now on Ngong Road, you will find a 72-seater bus. You will find a 33-seater bus. You will find a 14-seater matatu. You will find is it 8? No, it's around 6 or 7. They call them ngurue.
Yeah.
That tiny thing,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then from there you will find a tuk-tuk on the same route.
Thank you.
You will find a motorbike
Yes.
on the same route, and you will find a mkokoteni
Yeah.
on the same route.
Yes.
One asks the question, as a country, what is our transport policy when it comes to ferrying wananchi from point A to point B in a manner that is structured, predictable, is safe, and up to code? Do we have that as a country? Because if you go to a place like Denmark, they have their trains, sawa, but they have high capacity buses. When you stand at the station in Akwambia, this bus will be here at 8:01. At 8:01, it is there. To do what? To drop and pick.
Correct.
It is not there to stall there for 3-4 hours,
Loading
waiting
to
for
fill.
one. No. Because one question, because I asked, how come? How come? It is because if I am the number one citizen in that bus, that is 200 people, it would be unfair for me to wait for the 200th person because I left my house early because I was heading somewhere.
Thank you.
What is our policy when it comes to transport? So that when you're having discussions around how on handling transport, there is a clear policy on what we're doing as a country.
The policy we have right now generally says that we want to move towards
Singapore.
green transport, and then we want to move towards high capacity vehicles.
Yes.
But the implementation of the policy is not in sync. That is NTSA and right now NAMATA are not in sync. And perhaps also the Constitution brought a bit of confusion because when it said transport is devolved to the counties, it did not specify quite a number of things. For example, if you say counties, it's devolved to Nairobi, how about a vehicle going to Ngong?
Yeah.
Who licenses across? And that's why we needed to have the NAMATA, Nairobi Metropolitan Transport Authority. NAMATA are called organizing authorities in transport. And these organizing authorities are the ones that come in with that segregation you are talking about. Now, NAMATA, too, in my opinion, has been suppressed. It is underfunded. Actually, nobody knows what it should be doing. Yet all cities across Africa now, Maputo has started one. We have Lagos, NAMATA in Lagos. We have Setud in Dakar, Senegal. We have got Sutra in Abidjan. Every city now, that here is in Tanzania. Cape Town is having one, Joburg, Gauteng. But Nairobi, we are still wondering whether we should have NAMATA or not have NAMATA. And then you don't have then the organizing authority to be able to do that. To shift and say, these are going to be dedicated lanes. These are going to be BRT buses. These are going to be feeder system. And these ones are going to be the other last mile vehicles. Nobody's doing that. So we are all lumped up together and nobody wants. And of course, with our informal sector economy, which we are not ready to transition, both us as operators and as government, then we are sitting ducks, just sitting there, getting all in this confusion. But what you are saying is exactly what it should. There must be segregation. There must be deterrence of certain vehicles operating within the certain jurisdictions. Then that way we'll be able to. But to allow me, just in case you forget, allow me to make some small announcement. On 17th of this month, that is Friday, we are having a World Public Transport Day, which is being celebrated. We'll have tents at Kencom and archives there, and we want to speak to people. We'll have Namata, Lamata, the Transport Tribunal, we'll have the roads agencies, we'll have Isuzu, we'll have Basigo. Everybody's going to be there to try and speak to this. We would invite everybody to come there. We speak to what Asego is talking about, so that we are able to tell each other that this is what we need and what do we benefit if we do that. All of us stand to benefit. The government will benefit, us operators will make more profitable, and most of all, the passenger will be the biggest winner. Thank you.
To the up-hailing rides, I don't know if you've had them convert into security officers. So over.
I've actually been in one. They started with prayers. And then after prayers now was how do they call them? Chairman. And not you. Chairman. So chairman and eleza leo tujue venye issue iko. I understand like some areas would be, because mostly they use it when there are demonstrations to know where to go, where not to go and all. But yeah,
it's very important, and it brings out the concept of unity, togetherness, bringing all the drivers under one umbrella. At the end of the day, there doesn't seem to be a response from the app owners in regards to the fuel increase. So apart from adjusting the price fares, what exactly will the drivers do to ensure that their concerns are equally as much of a priority as the customer? Because the customer is always right, and we sort of understand how the app-hailing platforms are approaching this in terms of competing for customers, kushukisha bei chini na chini. But it's not sustainable. At the end of the day, how do we ensure that your plight as drivers are considered not just by the government, but these app-hailing platforms that are not locally based?
Okay, I will start by Roger Over. Which was introduced by myself again to our organization, OOD. And we have the largest radio. We call it our Romeo. And even the captains, the drivers were requesting me when I come to studio, I just press so that they can listen in the Romeo. We have like 20,000 drivers in the Romeo, in our Romeo. And then as a result of that, other people will start. We have other small radios in our industry. The purpose for this radio, one, was the issue of security. So that we realized that people are requesting cabs with a different motive. And once you get there, because you find there are 5 men, what can you do again? Then you get harassed and the cars has been stolen and such kind of cases. And even right now, we have a case at NTSA where we are requesting one application to change the driver contract with them. And we have a meeting on 22nd with the NTSA to address that. Because like 8 of our drivers has been carjacked. One of them is nowhere to be found. We can only find the 6 of them. So that was the first issue that made us to create that radio. Number 2, again, was the issue of pricing. Because we don't have a capacity and a say to determine the prices. No, we wanted to bring all these drivers in real time, that if I get to happen and get a passenger here and I negotiate, the app shows 800 and I tell the passenger, you need to give me 1,000. Then refuses and cancels the trip. I will raise to every driver. There is a driver, there is a passenger somewhere. I have requested for 1,000 shillings. So whoever will pick that request again, we will use the same ones. Are you ready to pay 1,000? The third one, are you ready to pay 1,000? Eventually you will say, let me go with 1,000. That was the purpose for the radio. Now again, we introduced the radio, we brought people together, we had severe strikes, you know that. At NTSA, we went there, we pushed the government to give us room for the adjustment of prices. We introduced what we call the AA rates, but because AA are neutral.
Yeah.
They can make prices without being not in favor of the application or the driver. We went to them, they did a very good document, and we presented it to the CS Transport. He said this is a very good issue. And he said he requested the application company again to adhere to the AA rates.
When was this?
Last year on the month of November. November last year, our last strike. Then again, we were given mandate to go to the application companies and negotiate. We did to almost every application. Most of them agreed to go to AA rates, but after 2 weeks, they have gone no more again to their own prices. So we wonder what again are we going to do? I think the solution will be when the government will introduce now a structured way of determining prices in Kenya, not even in our sector, but also, as my colleague says, in Matatu sector, a very structured way. We need a calculator that when the fuel goes up, then the calculator can adjust comfortably without creating conflict between the driver. Now again, the passengers, we have become like enemies to our own clients.
Yeah.
Because when you go and negotiate, then a passenger says, hey, I'm not used to this. Then you quarrel a little bit, then we become enemies to our passengers. And we don't want to be enemies to our clients.
You see, we talk about, if you talk about, I think Evelyn can allow me to mention, can I mention the taxi hailing apps? Yeah, so we talk about Uber, United States of America. You talk about Bolt, it is Estonia, right? You talk about Yego, it is Rwanda. We need to find our local solutions to our local problems.